So I've spent years diving pretty deep into the world of health and nutrition in my own life, through my certifications in nutrition and in fitness, and also through working with women one-on-one who want to become their healthiest and fittest self. And one of the most eye-opening things I've learned along the way is just how many common nutrition habits we think are healthy, also because many of them might work for men but not for us women, and are actually working against us. So in this video I'm going to share 8 of the most common healthy nutrition habits we tend to fall into that are actually unhealthy, along with tips on how to break out of them. Number 1, avoiding dairy. Dairy is one of the best natural sources for calcium, iodine, and protein, which are crucial for our bone and our thyroid health. And contrary to popular belief, dairy is actually not inflammatory. In fact, it can actually sometimes be anti-inflammatory. And while yes, lactose intolerance is real, first of all, so many dairy products do not even naturally contain any lactose or very little, for example, some cheeses or fermented products. Second, there are so many lactose-free options where it says lactose-free because the producers of that product have added the enzyme lactase to the product, which is the enzyme your body lacks if you do have lactose intolerance. So these lactose-free products are most likely not gonna cause any symptoms. Or you can make it even easier for yourself and just eat any dairy product and just take a lactase supplement. So again, that enzyme lactase in the form of a pill before you eat the dairy product, and then you should be fine. At least if your lactose intolerance is not very, very bad. However, some women do feel bloated or struggle with acne if they consume too much dairy. But first, the poison's in the dose. Often, if you don't overdo the dairy products, many people don't feel any symptoms. Or maybe you should switch to A2 milk products. A2 is a type of milk that has different type of casein, which is a milk protein, that most people do not have any problems with. And this type of milk, the A2 milk, comes from goats, sheep, and some kind of cows, while many of the most common cows produce A1 milk that you might have troubles with, while A2 products won't cause any symptoms. And while you don't necessarily need dairy to get all your essential nutrients, as with many whole foods, if not all of them, if you decide to leave out a whole food group completely from your diet, you need to make sure to get the respective nutrients from somewhere else, in this case especially calcium. On top of that, dairy is one of the best protein sources out there. Not only quantity-wise, because it does have a lot of protein, but also quality-wise, because the protein in milk is complete, which is the highest quality protein, meaning it gives your body all the essential amino acids that it needs. So dairy is 1,000 times better as a protein source than, for example, protein powders. Which brings me to fake healthy habit number 2, relying on healthy alternatives like high protein products. Whether it's a protein shake, a protein bar, a vegan sausage, all of these healthy alternatives are usually ultra-processed, filled with additives, gums, artificial sweeteners, weird flavorings, all the things that you do know are not good for you, if you really think about it. Take protein shake, for example. If there's a protein shake that tastes like cookie crumble or birthday cake, do you really think that's gonna be healthy? If it tastes like a dessert, there's probably a reason for that. Or protein bars. Have you ever looked at the ingredient list of a protein bar? Usually, there's a lot of weird things that you can't even pronounce, and for sure there's either gonna be sugar in there or some sort of sweetener. Most likely an artificial sweetener, because that lowers the calorie. And sugar, you probably are well aware, is not healthy for you, but also artificial sweeteners are super bad for you, especially your gut health. And your gut health is the key to your overall health, in case you don't know they are. And vegan sausages, I don't really want to start that topic, but have you ever looked at the ingredient label? How do you think it's possible to make them taste like real meat products? Probably not by natural spices. So whatever you consume that is labeled super healthy, super high protein, that is not a whole food where you know it's actually super healthy or super high protein, please at least check the ingredient list. And if there's something you can't even pronounce, maybe skip that one. Or treat it as a treat, but not as a healthy food. Now there are some exceptions to that, because there are some very clean protein powders or even clean protein bars, but first, they're very hard to find. And second, even these foods are still at least processed, if not ultra processed. If it's protein powder, for example, has to be extracted from the original food, whether that's soy or milk, for example, and then isolated. And that process is a process. Usually a multi-step process, which makes the food ultra-processed. And as you probably have heard before, ultra-processed foods are not something you should focus your diet on. So you can definitely use protein powders and protein bars as a supplement if you struggle to get enough protein, but you should not treat it as a healthy whole food, because it's not. Number 3, going low carb. You've probably heard that if you eat carbs, your blood sugar is gonna spike, and that is not something that you want. And that is true. Pretty much all nutrition scientists and doctors agree on that. But that does not mean that you should cut out carbs. And if you've heard that the ketogenic diet is so healthy because you need healthy fats and protein, and with that you get all of that. Yes, you need healthy fats and you need protein, but women also need carbs because an adequate carb intake is essential for our hormone health, our thyroid function, and our menstrual cycles. And if you go low carb for too long, you will most likely have shitty energy, not sleep well, feel stressed out all the time, or have other high cortisol symptoms, and most likely irregular cycles. However, I do have to mention that low carb diets might be beneficial for some women, because both obese women and women who struggle with PCOS often have insulin struggles. However, first, don't do this without talking to a doctor first. Second, if you go low carb for too long and combine that with a low calorie diet because you want to lose some weight, and combine that with exercising a lot, you will pretty likely experience the symptoms that I just mentioned. If you are obese or struggle with PCOS, first talk to a doctor, and second, consider maybe just switching to very complex carbs and only leaving out simple carbs and not just cut out carbs completely. But even worse for both your body and your sanity is juice cleanses or detox diets, which I am fascinated about that still exist and people still do, even though we have the internet and should know better by now. But people still do it. So if you are one of these people, please stop. Because first, if you drink only juice, that is spiking your blood sugar levels. And that's something that you do not want for many reasons, including energy crashes, mood swings, inflammation, and much more. Second, these cleanses or diets are usually very, very, very low calorie, which is something that especially women should not do for too long at least, because that's gonna stress out your body immensely and it's gonna spike your cortisol levels into the sky, up into the, very high. Third, it's not even necessary because we have these cool organs called kidneys and liver, which are there to detox. So instead of relying on some weird detox cleanse thing, take care of your kidney and liver health. You can do that very easily by hydrating enough, moving more, and focusing on whole foods. Fourth, if you do these things, usually they don't contain any or very little fats and protein. And you need healthy fats for first nutrient absorption, but also hormone health, and you need protein for so many things, including not losing muscle mass. And if you go low calorie and low protein, you will lose muscle and not fat. Or maybe if you notice your weight going down very quickly, first either that's muscle or it's water. Okay, but Hannah, in general, even if I don't do these weird cleanses, how do I know if I'm losing fat or muscle mass or water weight? Glad you asked. There's actually this genius little device, the Body Pod by Hume Health, that helps you analyze exactly that, aka your body composition. So how much body fat you have, how much muscle mass you have, and how much body water you have. Oh, really? But does it also tell me my weight? Yeah, it does, but actually that's not really important. You want to focus on your muscle mass and your body fat percentage, because that's what actually matters. And it even tells you these metrics, not only overall, but also broken down into your arms, your trunk, and your legs. And it takes all it knows about you together and tells you your metabolic age. So basically, how healthy your metabolism seems to be. Oh wow, and you're 7 years younger? Is that even exact? Yes, actually it's super accurate. It has a medical grade accuracy of 98%. Okay, that's really cool. But I don't know if I have the budget for that right now. Well, actually, the Body Pod is also FSA or HSA eligible for US residents, meaning you might be able to get it covered by your insurance. If you want to get your own Body Pod, use the link in my description and my code to get an incredible discount that stacks on top of Hume Health's current sale. But keep in mind that the discount code is only valid for the next 7 days. Thank you so much to Hume Health, and now let's get back to the habits. Next, we have living on salads. Now, obviously salads can be part of a very healthy, balanced diet, but if you only or mostly eat salads, you need to pay close attention to first what you put into that salad, and second, how your gut is doing. Because first, many girls eat lettuce and put some vinegar on there and add some chicken breast and maybe some raw carrots. And that's it. And that salad would lack especially fats, some fiber unless you put in the carrot, that counts, and complex carbs. So if you do a salad, make sure that there's enough protein, enough fats, and also a source of complex carbs. Second, cold foods, and especially raw vegetables, can mean a lot of work for your gut, meaning you could be bloated more easily or just, feel not very comfortable digestion-wise. And warm cooked meals, which don't have to be complicated, just the warmness and the being cooked of a meal, okay, not raw, first also tends to be more filling, and second, not only nourishes your body, but also your mind, because it calms your mind down more efficiently than, for example, a salad. If you feel like a salad and if you know that you put enough healthy fats, complex carbs and protein in there, have it as long as you feel good. But if you feel like you're lacking something, you're not satisfied, you're not really feeling like you've just eaten, maybe switch to some more warm food. Something else that not only us women but especially us are doing very often is over supplementing, or supplementing not the right things. Well, some supplements can be very beneficial for most people. I have a newsletter coming out where I talk about which supplements make sense for most people according to research. If you don't want to miss that, sign up via the link in my description. But also, there are some supplements that either you specifically shouldn't take because your blood levels are already high in that macronutrient, or there's supplements that have more negative than positive effects, which can be very individual. So first, when you do decide to supplement anything, make sure to get your blood checked by your doctor first to see if you actually need that supplementation. Because, well, for example, vitamin C is very hard to overdose to take enough of because you just, peed out if there's too much of it in your body. There are some macronutrients, for example, vitamin D, that you can have too much of. But also some superfood supplements, if you want to call it that, can be actually detrimental for your health. For example, an example from my own life, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen that is very powerful and that can help you deal with stress a lot better, which is why I took it for a while, and it really helped me calm down and balance my cortisol. However, also, research shows that sometimes for some people, when they take ashwagandha for too long without any breaks, that can lead to liver damage. And as a matter of fact, after I was taking ashwagandha for quite some time, without taking enough breaks, my blood markers for my liver health weren't looking so good. Nothing detrimental, but still there was a warning sign, a very clear warning sign that I should stop taking ashwagandha, at least for a while. Next, we have a habit that is possibly one of the most common healthy eating habits, yet also possibly one of the most detrimental, in one way at least, and that is to only eat clean foods. Now you might be thinking, wait, what, Hannah? You just said earlier, don't eat ultra processed foods and focus on whole foods. Yes, obviously, whole foods should be your focus. However, not a strict 100% focus, because when you only eat clean foods, it is very, very, very likely that first you're gonna develop a black and white mentality because you think clean foods are good foods and everything else is bad and you shouldn't have that. And second, or well, connected to that, that might very likely to a not so healthy relationship to food, or even a whole form of an eating disorder called orthorexia, aka the need to eat healthy, clean foods only. And I think it's really, really easy to trip into that, because so often I see on Instagram or somewhere on social media people saying, healthy, seemingly people, health influencers, however you want to call them, I started to cut out all sugar and all coffee and all gluten from my diet and I feel better than ever. And for some people that might work. However, any kind of over restriction can backfire. And while yes, sometimes it can be very helpful to do a little detox to reduce certain unhealthy type of foods or less healthy types of foods for a while, but generally, and I'm talking from my own experience as well as my experience from working with clients, restriction is what causes unhealthy relationships to food, which is one of the biggest problems for most people, unfortunately. So instead of cutting out any type of food 100%, try to implement the good old 80-20 rule, aka focusing on whole, healthy, nutritious foods 80% of the time, and for the remaining 20% of the time, eat whatever you feel like. That can be whole foods too, obviously, if you feel like it, but it can also be junk. Another form of restriction is skipping meals in order to save calories. Especially skipping breakfast can have so many detrimental effects on your mental and physical health. Because first, if you don't have breakfast, your cortisol is gonna stay high because it's naturally high in the morning, and when you eat, it balances itself out more easily. But if you don't eat, it doesn't do that. So you're likely gonna be more stressed overall. Second, if you don't have breakfast or if you skip meals in general, you're very likely to be overeating later because your blood sugar is gonna be out of balance and your energy is gonna crash. But if you've heard that intermittent fasting is super healthy, the healthier options to do that intermittent fasting, if you really want to do it, although you should be careful about this because not eating for a long amount of time always means stress for your body. But if you still want to do intermittent fasting, try to do it early in the day, aka have breakfast, have lunch, and have an early dinner, and then leave your 14 or 16 hours if you want to do that much from the dinner to the early breakfast, and have the breakfast within about 60 minutes of waking up. And this is still so controversial because there's still people who say intermittent fasting is good for everyone, also women. However, most of the research on intermittent fasting has not controlled for gender, / only shows the positive effects for men, as is the case for so much health and nutrition research. However, fortunately, Dr. Stacy Sims, who is the expert on female nutrition and fitness, is bringing light into the science of female health, nutrition, and fitness. And I made a whole video about what she said that we should do differently than men. So make sure to check that out as well. Thank you for watching and take care.